backstage at the Stanford Medical School auditorium when the message came through. The air was cold, the kind of sterilized chill you only find in hospitals and high-stakes environments. Around me, other graduates were adjusting their crimson hoods, their faces bright with a kind of nervous energy that comes from knowing you've crossed a finish line. I checked my phone one last time, not for congratulations but out of habit, a habit I hadn't quite broken yet. The text was from my mother, Angela. It popped up on the screen, bright and sharp. We can't make it. Flights to California are too expensive after paying for Shelby's trip to Milan. Enjoy your day. I read it twice. The words didn't hurt, not really. Pain requires surprise, and this wasn't a surprise, it was a confirmation. I looked out at the front row where I had reserved 3 seats. They were empty seats for empty promises. I didn't cry. I didn't feel my throat tighten. Instead, I felt a strange, cool clarity wash over me. I typed a reply, my thumbs moving steady and sure. Enjoy the investment. Then I locked my phone, smoothed the front of my gown, and walked toward the light of the stage to deliver the most important speech of my life. Have you ever had a moment where you realized you were the only one investing in a relationship? Drop a yes in the comments and let me know where you're listening from. I'd love to hear your story. To understand why I didn't cry, you have to understand the math. My family life had always been a game of numbers, and I was always on the wrong side of the equation. My parents, Angela and Robert, didn't see children, they saw assets. And in their portfolio, my younger sister Shelby was the high-risk, high-reward stock they were betting the farm on. She was 23, beautiful, and perpetually on the verge of making it as a lifestyle influencer and model. I was 26, the quiet one, the grinder, the utility player. While I was working night shifts at the pathology lab to pay for my own medical school tuition, eating instant ramen, and driving a car with a check engine light that had been on since the Obama administration, my parents were pouring thousands into Shelby's dream. I knew the figures by heart. $4,000 for professional camera equipment, because Shelby said her smartphone wasn't cutting it. $10,000 for networking trips to Los Angeles and New York that resulted in nothing but a lot of selfies and a maxed-out credit card. And now $24,000 for a trip to Milan Fashion Week. They called it an investment in her brand. I called it what it was, a donation to a vanity project. But the number that really stuck in my throat, the one that made the bile rise, wasn't about Shelby. It was about me. 3 years ago, right before I started my residency, my father called me in a panic. He said the roof was leaking, that there was mold, that they needed emergency repairs or the house would be condemned. He asked for $20,000. I emptied my savings. I gave them everything I had, money I had scraped together from tutoring and lab work. It's just a loan, Alexis, he had said, his voice thick with gratitude. We'll pay you back as soon as the tax return comes in. I never saw a dime of that money again. Every time I asked, there was an excuse. The market was down. The car broke down. Shelby needed head shot. Standing there on that stage looking at those empty chairs, I realized something profound. It wasn't that they didn't have the money to come to my graduation. It was that they didn't see they saw Shelby as an extension of themselves. Shiny, public, something they could show off to the neighbors. If she succeeded, they succeeded. I was different. I was a utility. I was like the electricity or the water bill. Essential, reliable, but nobody applauds when the lights turn on. They only notice when they go out. I was the black sheep, not because I was bad, but because I was useful, and you don't thank a utility, you use it until it runs dry. The realization hit me like a physical blow, but it didn't knock me down, it stood me up straighter. I walked to the podium, the microphone gleaming under the stage lights. I adjusted the stand. I looked out at the sea of faces, parents beaming at their children, partners holding flowers, siblings cheering, and then I looked at the 3 empty seats in the front row. I reached into my bag and pulled out my white lab coat. It was embroidered with my name, Dr. Alexis. I walked down the steps, the auditorium falling silent, and I draped the coat over the center seat. Then I placed a single large sunflower on top of it, a flower that always turns toward the light no matter how dark the soil is. I walked back to the mic. I didn't open my prepared notes, I spoke from the chest. My speech today was supposed to be about the future of medicine, I said, my voice echoing in the quiet hall, but instead I want to talk about the return on investment. I paused. The silence was heavy, expectant. We are taught that if we work hard, if we are good, if we achieve, we will be rewarded. We are taught that love is a meritocracy, but sometimes the people who are supposed to invest in us are betting against us. Sometimes the people who should be in the front row are too tired from funding someone else's fantasy to show up for your reality. I looked directly into the camera that was live streaming the event. To everyone who has ever felt like a utility in their own family, I continued, my voice gaining strength. To everyone who has been the bank, the fixer, the silent support system while someone else got the glory. Stop. Stop. Investing in people who view you as a resource, not a person. Stop waiting for a return that is never coming. Today I am graduating at the top of my class from one of the best medical schools in the world, and I am doing it alone, and that is okay because I am my own best investment. The applause didn't start immediately. There was a beat of stunned silence, and then it rolled through the room like thunder. People stood up. I saw a mother in the third row wiping tears from her eyes. I saw a father nodding solemnly. The clip of me placing the coat on the empty chair hit TikTok before the ceremony was even over. By the time I walked off stage, it had 50,000 views. By midnight, it had 1 million. The caption, "Everyone was using reserved for who shows up." The next morning, I woke up to a phone that was practically vibrating off the nightstand. I picked it up, expecting maybe a few texts from friends, maybe a congratulations from a colleague. Instead, I had 63 notifications and none of them are happy. The first text was from my mother. "How could you embarrass Shelby like that? Her sponsors are asking questions, take it down." Then Shelby, a series of voice notes. I played one. Her voice was shrill, hysterical. "You ruined Milan." I'm in the hotel lobby crying because people are spamming my comments asking why I'm in Italy while my sister is graduating alone. "You're so selfish, Alexis. You always have to make everything about you." Then my father, "Take that video down now. You are airing private family business and making us look like monsters. We did the best we could. You are ungrateful." I sat on the edge of my bed holding the phone. The old Alexis, the one who lent them $20,000, the one who fixed their problems, would have panicked. She would have deleted the video, she would have apologized, she would have tried to smooth it over, but that Alexis had graduated yesterday. The woman sitting on the bed was Dr. Alexis, and she was done with bad investments. I didn't reply. I didn't argue, I simply took a screenshot of the texts. Then I opened my contacts and scrolled until I found the name I needed, Aunt Patricia. Patricia was my father's sister, but they were nothing alike. She was a forensic accountant in Chicago, a woman who saw the world in black and white, debits and credits. She was the only person in my family who had sent a card for my graduation. Inside, she had written, "Proud of you, keep climbing." I pressed call. She answered on the second ring. "Alexis," she said, her voice sharp and clear. I saw the speech. It was brilliant and about time. "Aunt Patricia," I said, my voice steady, "I need a favor. I need you to help me audit a loan." "What kind of loan?" 3 years ago, I lent Mom and Dad $20,000 for emergency home repairs. They signed a promissory note. I have it. They haven't paid back a cent. And now I paused, looking at the text from Shelby about her ruined Milan trip. Now I want to know where the money really went. "Send me the documents," Patricia said. "I'll start digging." I hung up and felt a cold, hard satisfaction settle in my chest. They wanted to talk about investment. Fine, let's look at the books. 48 hours later, my phone rang. It was Patricia. "Are you sitting down?" she asked. "I am." I went through the public records and I did some digging into the custodial accounts your grandmother set up. "You know, the one she left for your tuition?" "Yeah," I said. "Mom and Dad told me it was lost in the market crash in 2008. That's why I had to take out loans. It wasn't lost," Patricia said, her voice low and dangerous. "It was transferred 3 weeks ago." My blood ran cold. Transferred where? To a travel agency in New York and a luxury hotel in Milan. I closed my eyes. The room seemed to tilt. It wasn't just neglect. It wasn't just that they favored Shelby. They had stolen from me. They had taken the money my grandmother left for my education. Money that could have saved me years of night shifts and stress. And they had used it to send Shelby to Italy to take pictures of pasta. "Are you sure?" I whispered. "I have the transaction receipts." "Alexis, it's theft, plain and simple. What do you want to do?" I opened my eyes. I looked at the sunflower from the ceremony now sitting in a vase on my dresser. It was starting to droop, but it was still bright, still defiant. "I want it back," I said. "All of it." I called my parents and told them we needed to talk. I didn't ask, I told them. I set the time for 7:00 p.m. and sent a Zoom link. They accepted immediately, probably assuming they were finally going to get the apology they felt they were owed. At 6:55 p.m. I set up my laptop in the living room of my small apartment. I put on a blazer over my t-shirt. I wanted to look like a doctor, not a daughter. At 7:00 p.m. their faces appeared on the screen. They were sitting on the beige sofa in the living room I grew up in. My mother, Angela, was wearing her concerned parent face, brow furrowed, lips pursed. My father, Robert, looked annoyed, like I was interrupting a very important football game, and squeezed between them with Shelby. She looked perfectly styled, her makeup flawless, but her eyes were redrimmed. She was holding a tissue like a prop. "Alexis," my mother started before I could even say hello. "Thank God you called. We've been worried sick. Do you have any idea what you've done? We need a public apology, Shelby cut in, her voice wobbling. People are unfollowing me. Brands are pulling out. You have to post a video saying you were just emotional and that we supported you. Yeah, my father grunted. Fix this mess. I watched them for a moment. The indignation, the entitlement, they truly believed they were the victims. It was fascinating in a clinical way, like watching a virus replicate under a microscope. I'm not going to apologize, I said. My voice was calm, and I'm not going to take the video down. Then why are we here? My father snapped. Because we need to discuss a transaction, I said. Specifically, a transfer of $24,000 from the custodial account. Grandmother set up for me. The silence that fell over the call was absolute. My mother's face went pale, my father shifted uncomfortably. Shelby looked confused. What are you talking about? Shelby asked. Your trip to Milan, I said. It wasn't funded by Mom and Dad's savings, it was funded by my tuition money. Money that was supposed to be for my medical school, which Mom and Dad told me was lost in the market. That's a misunderstanding. My father stammered. We borrowed it, we were going to put it back. Borrowed. I held up the bank transfer record Patricia had sent me without asking. That's not borrowing, Dad, that's embezzlement, and since I was the beneficiary, that's theft. You ungrateful little, my mother started, her face flushing red. We raised you, we fed you, you owe us everything, I owe you nothing. I cut her off. I paid for my own school, I paid for my own car, I paid for my own life. And 3 years ago, I paid $20,000 for your roof repairs. That never happened. I leaned closer to the camera. Here is what is going to happen. I am going to press charges for theft and fraud unless you sign over the deed to Grandma's rental property in Ohio today. You wouldn't, my mother whispered. We're your family, try me. My father looked like he was about to explode. That property is our retirement, you can't take that. You took my future, I said. I'm just balancing the books. While they were shouting, trying to bluster their way out of it, a sound cut through the noise. It was the TV in their background. They had left the news on. And in breaking news, the anchor's voice floated through the speakers. Dr. Alexis, the viral valedictorian who moved the nation with her speech on resilience, has just been awarded the prestigious Meridian Grant. The $500,000 grant will support her groundbreaking research into autoimmune diseases. The room on their end went dead silent. They all turned to look at the TV. Then they turned back to the screen looking at me. $500,000. I saw the realization hit them. It wasn't pride. It wasn't love. It was calculation. They looked at Shelby, who was sobbing about losing followers and had zero income. Then they looked at me, the daughter they had ignored, who was now a half-millionaire. Alexis, my mother said, her voice suddenly soft, sickly sweet. Honey, we didn't know this changes things. We can work this out, we're so proud of you. I felt a wave of nausea. It was the illusion of power of the empty wallet. They had no power. They were hollow, they only valued what they could extract. No, I said, it changes nothing, the deed or the police. You have 1 hour. I ended the call. I sat there in the silence of my apartment. My heart was pounding, but my hands were steady. I had done it. I had stood up to the people who were supposed to protect me and instead had preyed on me. An hour later, an email arrived from my father. Attached was the signed deed transfer. No message, no apology, just the document. I forwarded it to Patricia. It's done, I typed. Good, she replied. I'll handle the filing, you go celebrate. I closed my laptop. I looked around my small, quiet living room. It wasn't much, but it was mine, paid for with my own money, my own work. I sold the property 2 months later. I didn't keep the money. I used every cent to start the Empty Chair Scholarship. It was for students like me, high achievers with no family support, the invisible ones, the grinders. I blocked my parents and Shelby on everything. Phone, social media, email. I set up a separate email address for emergencies, which I checked once a month. It was usually empty or full of guilt-tripping attempts that I deleted without reading. 6 months later, I was sitting in my new apartment, a place with big windows and lots of light. I was working on my research, a cup of tea steaming beside me. The sunflower from my graduation was dried and pressed in a frame on my desk. I turned on my camera. I had one last thing to do. Hey everyone, I said to the lens, I wanted to share one last thing with you. I read the end of my speech again today and I realized I left something out. I took a breath. To everyone who has ever had to parent themselves. To the glass children who were looked through, never at to the fixers who held everything together while falling apart. You don't need them to see you to be real. You are the sun, not the satellite. They revolved around you because you are the source of the light. Even if they try to dim it, you don't need their permission to shine. Build your own seat. And if no one sits next to you, spread out. You've earned the space. I stopped recording. I posted the video. Then I picked up my tea, walked to the window and watched the sun go down over the city. I was alone. And for the first time in my life I wasn't lonely, I was free. If you enjoyed the story, hit like and subscribe for more story, share this story. You are not alone, God bless you, thanks for watching.